9-9 game, and he hits this one in the air to deep right.
So there was a jump from AAA to the big leagues for you.
There was.
How about that for a story? He'll be 32 years of age this summer. Finally in the big leagues, and he has the home run that has put the Rockies in front here in the 11th.
Did you ever think it wasn't going to happen?
Yeah, there are times, but, it's all worthwhile. That journey made me who I am today. And, it was all worth it. I wouldn't change a thing. To be able to make that phone call to my dad is something I'll never forget the rest of my life.
Welcome into the Hog Pod. I'm Bo Mattingly, and this episode is made possible by our friends at First Security Bank, Saracen Resort, Lindsay Golf, and Abuelita Maria.
That's a great job right there. Colin Smith was getting it around first base right out of the box. There was no hesitation. He knew.
Many Arkansas fans know Bubba Carpenter as the baseball analyst for the Razorback Sports Network. But his roots started on a chicken farm in the backwoods of northwest Arkansas. Just a boy with some big dreams.
If you asked me when I was 10 years old, I wanted to drive a chicken truck for Tyson, and I wanted to play Major League Baseball.
After a successful high school career at small 2A West Fork, he committed to play for the Razorbacks and almost immediately found out he had some challenges to overcome.
Doug Clark told me when I was a freshman I had an incurable hitch in my swing, and I would never hit Division I pitching. I worked hard to fix it because I didn't like someone telling me I couldn't do anything.
That tenacity earned Carpenter All Southwest Conference honors 3 times throughout his Hog career.
Ground ball. That'll bring in 1 run.
And when his time at Arkansas was over, Carpenter signed with the Yankees, playing alongside some all-time greats throughout his minor league career.
I was sitting there next to Derek Jeter, and I remember him saying one day, "Look at everyone. Everyone looks miserable here." He said, "You're playing baseball. Why are these guys all miserable?" There's a bunch of guys feeling like, "Oh, I shouldn't be in AA. I ought to be in AAA or the big leagues." That's why Derek Jeter was so great. It's your perception on everything. Life, baseball, whatever. It is what you make of it.
After 9 years of a minor league grind, Bubba finally got called up to the big leagues.
That was the highlight of my life, is calling my dad and telling him I'm going to the big leagues.
High fly ball. Bubba Carpenter sends Sosa back to the warning track. He's at the wall. Let's go. Back to back.
Bubba Carpenter lived his big league dream, and even after hanging up his cleats, couldn't turn away from the game he loved, opening a baseball academy to pass on his knowledge of the game, to develop another generation of ball players.
All right, we're going to go line drive to right, rocket to center, bomb to left. There it is. Remember, hey, that heel is your trigger. That heel's the trigger. You got to make it.
At the time we're visiting with you, and you've been doing this for a while, I mean, you have like this passion for developing young baseball players, right?
I do. I really do. It's something that I never thought I would be still doing. What I've been doing it for almost 20 years now. It started out in my garage. And, it's funny because the first couple of kids I hit with, I was still playing ball. And, I'd go off, I'd travel off, and I'd be playing minor league ball or wherever I was at. And if I had a bad day, I could come home and I'd get a call from one of my kids saying, "Oh, Jordan went 3 for 4 today and hit a home run and 2 doubles." And I'd be like, sweet. And it kind of made my day better. Even though I was 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, one of the kids that I trained had a great day. And I think I got hooked on it. I really did. I came back here when I quit playing and started teaching more. And then I kind of saw a need for just kids to be coached and trained. I was fortunate enough to be around some of the best minds in the game of baseball. I grew up a Yankee fan, and so, most people don't like the Yankees, but love them or hate them. We always had the best coaches, the best facilities, the best travel. You're around guys like Reggie Jackson, Whitey Ford, guys like that. Joe DiMaggio, Yogi Berra. One of my favorite pictures is a picture that's got me getting ready to bat and Yogi Berra standing behind me. It's in spring training. And I have like a look of death on my face, and everyone always gives me a hard time. It's like, who is pitching? Because I look scared to death. So I don't know what was going through my mind. But so being around those guys, I always kept my mouth shut and my ears open. and tried to learn as much as I could about the game of baseball. And so I think now I'm able to teach it to kids, and I think I can teach it to them in a way that, I know what it's like to be on the other side of that coach. I say all the time, I try to put myself inside that kid's head, what's inside his brain. Because I want to know, if I give a bunt sign here, what would I be thinking in that situation? Would I be thinking, oh, crap, I don't want to bunt here. I'd rather swing away. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because no one likes to bunt. And I think that helps me because when you feel like you're coaching from the inside out, I think you get a lot more out of a kid because every kid's different. You've got kids, and so you know exactly what I mean. Every kid's different. They respond different to it.
Well, if you're doing that, this is dropping. It's going to put you underneath the ball.
Even good coaches at that age maybe don't have that perspective. And maybe that comes from like you as a kid or, all your experiences. How did you grow up? Like, tell me what life as a kid was like for you.
Well, we grew up out in the country. We grew up in Winslow, Arkansas on a farm. And, my dad didn't know anything about baseball. Mechanically, he just taught us to work hard and be tough when you're out on a baseball field. But we grew up working on a farm. We didn't have the video games and the phones and all that. It was way different back then. And I think the reason we loved baseball so much was, we couldn't do baseball till we got done with all the work. And then we could go play baseball or football or whatever sport it was then we could go play. I think that made me really value the time on the baseball field because when I wasn't doing that, I was working. So I'm like, shoot, let's go play, But we did. We grew up, it was way out in the country and on a farm, and I loved it. Back then you didn't really like it. As I got older, I started to really appreciate, living out there and having the land and all that to roam around on.
How good were you, like, growing up into high school in baseball?
Well, the older I get, the better I was.
That's right. That's exactly right.
No, I tell you, I worked hard, Bo, and I was a good hitter. I loved hitting. From the time I was a little kid, I had a stick in my hand. I was hitting a rock. I was hitting a wiffle ball. I was hitting, if a bird flew by, I'd hit it. Whatever. I was hitting something. And so I loved to hit. And so I think I was always a pretty good hitter. But, I struggled at times also. And, that kind of, your true character comes out when you're struggling. And, growing up at Winslow, then we moved to West Fork and played ball. And, it was, I really didn't have those struggles. But as far as how good was I don't know. I guess I was a kid that wanted it really bad. If you asked me when I was 10 years old, I wanted to drive a chicken truck for Tyson, and I wanted to play Major League Baseball. We grew up on a farm.
At the same time?
I wanted to do, those were that was my bucket list when I was about 10. My bucket list wasn't very big, but that was two things I wanted to do. Growing up on a farm, it was a chicken farm. And when those guys would pull up in those big semis, I thought they were rock stars. And I wanted to drive one of those trucks. I'd watch them. I couldn't wait for them to show up. And I'd watch them come down the driveway and go down to the farm. And I thought those guys were awesome. And then I wanted to play Major League Baseball. At a young age, someone would ask me, and I'd tell them that's what I wanted to do.
So you're in high school. Are you getting recruited?
A little bit.
Play baseball in college?
Yeah, I had a few letters for football, smaller schools, baseball, but it was all smaller schools. It wasn't a lot. It was so much different back then. There wasn't the recruiting services. There wasn't the showcase baseball. I'm playing at West Fork at a AA school, but I was right here next to Norm DeBryan. I played American Legion ball in Fayetteville. That's where Norm DeBryan got to see me play. And he actually came, Dave Jordan came to watch me one day, and I had a good day. I was pitching. I think I hit 4 home runs that game. And
that's a lot.
Yeah, it was against Lincoln High School, and wasn't a very big field. And from there on, they were like, look, we want you to come here and play. And, it was a dream come true. I remember the first time I went to a Razorback game, watching Jeff King and some of those guys play, I was just in awe. And to me, George Cole Field was like Yankee Stadium. And I'm like, I want to play there. And so it worked out. It worked out where I was able to come here and play.
Arkansas, the top of the fourth. Line drive to center field, base hit for Bubba Carpenter.
So there's a story that at least one coach didn't think you would be able to hit at that level,
Yes.
D1 college level.
Well, and I'll say it was Doug Clark. Him and I joke about it today. Norm DeBryan and I still joke about it. But to be honest with you, it was one of the best things that's ever happened to me. He told me when I was a freshman, I had an incurable hitch in my swing. And
Freshman in high school?
Freshman in college
Okay.
here at U of A. And I would never hit Division I pitching. And I'm a little bit stubborn. My wife calls it stubborn. I call it persistent. But I wanted to prove him wrong, Bo, and I worked hard to fix it, because I didn't like someone telling me I couldn't do anything. That's one of the things Dad taught us growing up was, don't ever say you can't do something, because you can do it if you set your mind to it. And that's the beauty of baseball. You can turn yourself into the best player on your team if you just work hard enough. I couldn't play in the NBA. I couldn't have played in the NFL, but there's no reason why I couldn't play Major League Baseball. And I think hearing that from Coach Clark kind of lit a fire in me. And it just, I really wanted to prove him wrong and prove me right.
Well, did you change your swing?
I did. I did things. We didn't have the technology back then. These guys are spoiled today. The kids that I train are spoiled. We didn't have that much technology. I know Coach Clark had his hit kit, and we went to work in the hit kit and just started working on things. And eventually, I started hitting, and like I said, it was the first time in my life I'd ever struggled and really had to deal with a lot of adversity on the field. And, you had to battle through it. And it made me a better player. It made me mentally tougher, just made me a better person all the way around.
Well, you were all conference multiple years, right?
Yes.
So it happened pretty quick.
It happened quick.
I mean,
and
that first to second year, you got a lot better.
I think that was an overstatement on Doug Clark's, Coach Clark's
Was he
part.
trying to challenge you, or was he really thinking like, you should just go drive that chicken truck right now?
You know what? I'm not sure, Bo, to be honest with you. I think deep down it was a challenge to him. I think he threw it out there, and it worked. And, God bless him for it.
Bubba Carpenter steps back in. Ground ball. That'll bring in 1 run.
So how would you describe your college career as a Razorback?
Awesome. It really was. Playing for Norm DeBryan, it was, playing for Norm, I was always scared of him.
Norm DeBryan is taking a slow walk out to the mound.
I've said all along, if you've ever heard me talk, there's two people in my life I was scared of. One was my dad and one was Norm DeBryan. Just something about him. And people don't realize Norm's come a long way since back in the day. He wasn't always the nice, friendly Norm that you guys see now. He had a little edge to him back in the day, and he could snap. Like, he could be in a good mood 1 minute, and then one fly ball drops in the outfield, and boom, he's a different person. But, playing here, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the game, and dealing with failure. And it goes back to, why I do what I do now, Bo, is, for me, life mirrors baseball. And other people like Coach Musk might say the same thing about basketball, but I think in baseball, more so than any other sport, you have to deal with failure. I can watch a baseball game, and it's like life. You can pick out all the negative things in life. Like, I don't like my president. I don't like, it cost me $62 to fill up my truck with gas yesterday. My wife can't cook, whatever.
Yeah.
You can pick out all the negatives, or you can say, wow, we live in the greatest country in the world. Or, boy, I'm glad I had gas to put in my truck yesterday and I could afford it. And, my wife can't cook, but boy, she looks really good trying to cook. You can pick out the negatives. It's just like baseball. You can sit there and just nitpick everything, whether you're talking T-ball all the way up to Major League Baseball. You can pick out the positives. I choose to pick out the positives. And
Have
when
you always
do,
been like that?
with everyone else, yeah. With me, I was hard on myself. And I think that's why, once again, that's why I'm good at teaching and coaching now, is because I was so hard on myself. But I think the fact that I was hard on myself made me better. You know, there were times that when you're struggling, you go to bed thinking about it and you wake up in the morning thinking about it. And that was me. I'd lay in bed and I tell you what, it'd be in my mind. And I could remember every pitch that I saw that day. And I would remember the ones that I should have swung at, the ones I shouldn't have swung at, the ones I missed. But once again, it made me better. But I was hard on myself. But as far as everything else, I saw the positives. And I think the longer I played the game, the more I really appreciated the game of baseball and, you know, what I call the what ifs. You know, what if this happens? You know, what if he gets on? I'm always about 3 innings ahead of where we're at in the game. And I was like that when I was playing also. And I think it helped me be a better player, is always kind of playing ahead.
Well, Hog fans, if you're anything like me, there are few things more addicting than chips and salsa and cheese dip. It's a favorite of mine at every restaurant, and it's about to get better. Abuelita Maria is a longtime Arkansas-based company. They've been making fresh tortillas and tortilla chips in Springdale since 1994, and now they're announcing their newest creation, officially licensed Razorback-shaped tortilla chips. So be on the lookout at your neighborhood bar or restaurant for these Razorback-shaped tortilla chips. I've seen them, tasted them, and they are delicious and sturdy and look just like a Razorback. So just when you thought you couldn't love chips and salsa and cheese dip more, our friends at Abuelita Maria have raised the bar with fresh, Arkansas-made tortilla chips in the shape of a Razorback. Learn more at abuelitamaria.com. You know, I really enjoy talking about the all-new Saracen Resort in Pine Bluff because it's an incredible place. With everything that Saracen offers, you'll enjoy every second of your time there. The facilities cover a huge area that was previously a soybean field. Nowadays, it's a first-class operation offering tons of fun. Enjoy dining in one of their 5 restaurants, including the Red Oak Steakhouse, which is destined to be known as Arkansas's finest culinary dining experience. The Red Oak features cattle and bison from the Quapaw's own herd in Oklahoma, and the meat is processed in their own facility, the Quapaw Cattle Company. The Saracen also serves their own Quapaw brand coffee, featuring beans sourced from more than 20 countries and roasted in their own ovens. And for beer lovers, the Saracen includes an incredible on-site microbrewery. From Little Rock, head south toward Pine Bluff and exit when I-530 ends. It's only about 40 minutes from Little Rock. Arkansas's Quapaw heritage since 1673. Best moments as a Razorback.
College World Series 1989, without a doubt.
The Hogs felt they had to get on top early, and in the top of the first, Bubba Carpenter hit a bases-loaded single.
I remember clinching it. It was different back then. We didn't get to host back then. We went to, where'd we go? We went to Waterbury, Connecticut. Lost the first game against Lemoyne. It's crazy that I remember that. I had to come back through the losers bracket and beat some good teams. We beat Arizona State to get back to the championship game against Lemoyne. And they were a scrappy little team. And I remember clinching it there. And it was really my first big on-field celebration. I didn't know what to do. I don't know, do we dogpile? What do we do? But I remember that, and then I remember going to Omaha and just thinking, this is unbelievable.
I think we've got a great chance at it. We've got a real good team this year. We're playing with a lot of confidence right now. We're swinging the bats well. We're getting a lot of good pitching. I think we can go all the way this year.
Just being in Omaha. So that's definitely the highlight of my college days.
How about best personal moment in your career at Arkansas? Anything stand out? Big game?
Here's the 3-2 pitch. Fastball hit deep to right field. Way back there. That ball is.
I would say the game we played against A&M for the conference championship. We had never won an SEC championship, once again in '89. It was like a 16-inning game.
Southwest Conference at that time.
Southwest Conference, yes. And I remember winning that game. And, when we came back here, there were people that were at bars. There used to be Doc Murdoch's and all those places, and I guess they were announcing the score back here of the game as we got later into the game.
Because it wasn't on TV.
It wasn't on TV back then, and so, but in between songs and drinks, I guess they were announcing the score to the game. The DJ was, and so anyway, it's pretty cool when you think about it. It was a big deal, and it was a big deal for Norm DeBryan because we hadn't won a conference championship until '89. So that's probably the number one.
What would you give to go back and play in these facilities and train in these facilities and with this technology today, like just thinking back on the way your college career was versus how it is now.
That's some real exit velo on that ball. Whew, that would hurt.
Oh my goodness. If I could go back and do it again, Bo, I'd be pretty good.
I think you were pretty good.
Well, you know, you think about all the technology, and here's the thing that gets me is, you know, people always want to define you. You know, when I was growing up, like I said, it was a dream of mine to play Major League Baseball. Everyone defines you by that Major League Baseball experience. But what made me who I am is that journey to the big leagues. To be honest with you, all those little fields I played in at Winslow, West Fork, you know, all these little towns that we went to, my mom and dad hauling us all around during the summer. That's what made me, my experience here at U of A, all that. But people define you, you know, by your Major League experience. They don't realize that, hey, it's that journey that got me there that made me who I am today. And so I think that's what's neat about it. And now these guys, it took me a long time to develop everything that I had and put it together where I was ready to play in the major leagues. I think I spent, 9 or 10 years in the minor leagues, you know, like 6 years in AAA. These guys here, they come out of U of A ready to play Major League Baseball. And that's what separates our program from anywhere else. And I talk about it all the time. You look at the analytics, like everyone can go out and buy all this fancy equipment. These guys, we've got Nate Thompson, Matt Hobbs, just the whole staff, Van Horn. They can take all that technology and apply it to that specific player to make him better, whether you're talking hitting, pitching. So these guys come out of U of A basically Major League ready.
And struck out 5. Here's a tough chance for Bubba Carpenter, and to Bennett they get him. What a sensational play by Carpenter.
So tell me about that journey after college.
Well, I tell you, it makes me sound really old, but there weren't cell phones then. So our season had ended. I pull out of the driveway and I'm headed down to Dallas, Texas. I was going to play summer ball and wait for the draft. And I hadn't been gone 5 minutes and the phone rings at our house. It was a scout, Mark Batchko with the Yankees, and he wanted to talk to me about signing. They were allowed back then, they got one pick before the draft, and they wanted to talk to me and see if I wanted that spot. So there was no way to track me down. So I had to drive all the way down. My parents were going crazy. They're calling my aunt in Dallas. So I get to Dallas, and just so happened Mark Batchko was from Fort Worth. So as soon as I got to Dallas, I had like 100 messages from my parents. You know, hey, this guy wants to talk to you. So I talked to him, met him there, and we ended up signing a contract. And I never played summer ball, went straight to Tampa, Florida, and started working out with the Yankees rookie league team until the full draft started. And that's kind of where it started. And, you know, I was very fortunate. You know, a lot of it's just being in the right spot at the right time. I grew up a Yankee fan. Don't ask me how. I had Don Mattingly posters on my wall. Growing up in Winslow, Arkansas, I was probably the only person in Winslow with a Don Mattingly poster. But I grew up a Yankee fan, and so it was a dream come true for me.
Okay, we're ready to go then with the first round. The first selection goes to Seattle.
And when the draft's over, I go to what's called short season. And I'm there for one day, and a guy gets hurt in high A ball. And I get a chance to go up to high A ball, which basically I'm skipping. Back then, there were 5 levels of A ball. I went to Prince William, which is our highest level. And I did well. And so I moved up the ladder really quick. You know, I was able to play with guys like I played in AA with Derek Jeter, Posada, you know, Andy Pettit, their core 4. You know, I was part of the core. I guess I was 4.5. But, you know, and then we went from AA to AAA together, and then those guys went on to Hall of Fame careers, and here I am with you, you know? I mean,
that's awesome, though.
No, it's cool.
Like, what an experience. What a memory. Like, you didn't know it at the time, but thinking back, like, you're playing minor league baseball with some of the greats in the game.
Yeah. I mean, I was so fortunate to be around those guys, and not just those guys, just, you know, some of the guys in the Yankee just history books that were always around, and, you know, I always wanted to pick their brain because, like I said, I wanted to know more about the game. I had a passion for baseball, and I just love hearing their stories. I could sit there and listen to their stories forever. And to me, it was awesome. But you know, in Double-A, I was sitting there next to Derek Jeter, and I remember him saying one day, look at everyone. Everyone looks miserable here. He said, you're playing baseball. Why are these guys all miserable? There's a bunch of guys feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be in Double-A. I ought to be in Triple-A or the big leagues. You know, but that's why Derek Jeter was so great. He had that same mindset, and that kind of goes back to what I was referring to earlier. Is it's your perception on everything, life, baseball, whatever. It is what you make of it, and you got to pick out the positives. I know it's hard sometimes, but you know, then we get called up to AAA together, and you know, like I said, the rest is history. They're in the Hall of Fame, and I'm talking to Bo Mattingly right here.
Yeah, you're leaving some stuff out.
Well hit to right field, and this ball's out of here. 2-run home run, Bubba Carpenter, and all of a sudden it is a 1-run game.
So there was a jump from AAA to the big leagues for you.
There was.
How did that happen?
Well, I'd signed back with the Yankees. I had 3 different years that I was a free agent. And I kept signing back. They were giving me a pretty good amount of money and a good place to live in Columbus, Ohio. Great place to play AAA baseball. I'd spent like 7 years in AAA. They send me off to winter ball every year. I played in Dominica and Venezuela, Mexico, you know, played a little bit everywhere, Hawaii and winter ball. And I finally got a chance. I thought, okay, the Rockies called, and they offered me a good contract with a chance to play in the major leagues. And so I took that. And went to spring training, had a great spring training. Buddy Bell was my manager. He told me I was going to the big leagues, breaking camp with him. A guy all of a sudden gets healthy, and he's got a guaranteed contract, so I get sent to the minor leagues. And Buddy called me in the office the day before they broke camp and said, look, the first chance I get, you're coming up. So minor league season starts, and you know, I'm playing. I end up getting hurt. I pulled a lat muscle. And if you've ever pulled a lat muscle, it's the worst thing ever. So I go 31 days without swinging a bat. And the manager comes to me and he looks at me and said, can you go today? Well, I hadn't even started my rehab part yet. And I said, well, you know, I'm supposed to start rehab today. I'm going to try to swing a bat. And he winked at me and said, hey, you need to go today. And I said, okay, I'm good. So he put me out in right field. I played 1 inning of right field, and he called me in and said, congratulations, you're going to the major leagues. And I'm like, can I get an at bat first? I haven't seen a live pitch in 31 days. And he's like, hell no, get on a plane.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was crazy, Bo, because it's, you know, it's like all of this, and then all of a sudden your dreams coming true. And so I went inside the clubhouse, and, you know, the first thing I did was call my dad. And I told my dad, and so that is the one most, I don't know if my wife's going to hear this or not. Sorry, my wedding was big. But that was the highlight of my life, is calling my dad and telling him I'm going to the big leagues. Because, you know, he hauled me around all these ballparks, sacrificed so much for me. So to tell him I was going to the big leagues finally was just incredible. And I never saw my dad cry in my whole life, but I could hear it in his voice. You know, he was starting to crack up a little bit, and it was just awesome. And it's something I'll never forget the rest of my life.
What else do you remember about that conversation?
It was just joy, you know. And to be honest with you, my dad didn't really know what to say other than, well, you haven't been playing. Are you okay? You know, I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I didn't want him to worry about it. I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm 100%. You know, and then mom gets on the phone, the same thing. Of course, she's crying and she's happy, and you know, so it's just a great conversation, and all of their support and everything. And you know, like I said, I'll never forget it.
I think the perspective that we need is the journey that you've been sharing with us, how long it was, you know, that you were in the minor leagues when this happened. Like this didn't happen in like a couple of years.
Right. In 91 is when I signed with the Yankees. This was 2000. So
But you had like a 13-year minor league career, right?
Yeah, total it was like 13 years total.
Gosh.
But, you know, it's all worthwhile. Like I said, that journey made me who I am today. And, you know, it was all worth it. I wouldn't change a thing. It was an unbelievable experience. And like I said, to be able to make that phone call to my dad, I never changed a thing.
Did you ever think it wasn't going to happen?
Yeah, there are times.
Like maybe the big league thing's not going to happen.
You know, there was a time in Double-A, I was having a really good year, and we get to the All-Star break, and I get sitting down. And anyone that's played minor league baseball knows what I'm talking about. There's some stuff that you can't control. I got sent back down to A-ball, and it was a contract deal where another guy signed a contract, had to be in Double-A at the break. Well, they wanted me to play, so they sent me back to A-ball to play, and I was ready to go home. And I had a chance. The GM down there was a good guy, and he knew kind of what was going through my mind. And he said, hey, look, he said, there's a children's hospital here. Why don't we go to this hospital? I said, okay. And, you know, because you know how you get. You're kind of feeling sorry for yourself and, you know, poor me. Well, I go there, and I see these kids, and they can't play baseball. They're never going to get a chance to play baseball. And I felt like such a turd for feeling sorry for myself. And I see these kids, and I'm like, wow. You know, I felt like a horrible person, you know, for all my little pity party when these poor kids would give anything to be able to just get out and run around outside on the playground or do whatever. And I showed up at the ballpark the next day with a different mindset. And, you know, to me then it kind of put things in perspective again. And I had a whole new approach, and it really did change me. Anytime you start getting that poor me syndrome, you know, someone needs to look around and realize how fortunate they are, because usually there's a lot of people out there way worse off than you are. And so if you can do something to give a little back to them, it'll put things in perspective. And I try to this day to live by that.
First Security Bank is somebody I've been doing business with for a long time. And I know the families, the people that make up First Security Bank that's only in Arkansas. And they're all about Arkansas. They're people, I trust them. People I know. And I understand they have my best interest in mind. They're people who want to work with me, and I want to work with them. How's your banking experience? Want to bank better? Log on to fsbank.com and find out all the ways First Security Bank can help you. When it comes to Arkansas, there's nobody who cares more. First Security Bank, only in Arkansas. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. The year was 1992 when former Razorback Lindy Lindsay designed and built his first golf course. Since that time, Lindsay Golf has expanded to 42 clubs throughout 8 states, and they've been creating courses that provide a year-round pastime, which can be enjoyed by all ages in all walks of life. Ranging from 27-hole championship to 9-hole par 3s, Lindsay Golf is making a presence in affordable country club memberships for both individuals and families, challenging courses, and extensive amenities designed to attract golfers of all abilities. Members of clubs in the Lindsay Golf family also gain premium access and benefits across the Lindsay Golf network. To find a course or a club near you, just log on to lindsaygolf.com. That's LINDSEY golf.com. The world leader in affordable championship golf, Lindsay Golf.
How about that for a story? He'll be 32 years of age this summer. Finally in the big leagues.
So the 13-year grind ends. You're in the big leagues. Tell me about the trip to the big leagues.
It was awesome. First of all, I didn't sleep that night at all. I had an early morning flight. We're flying into Denver. I get to the game. Of course, the flight's delayed. I get to the game in like the 4th inning, sitting there and, you know, get my uniform on. I had 2 options, by the way, of numbers. One was like 40-something, and the other was 23, and I think you know which one I picked. Norm DeBryan was number 23, so I picked number 23. And
was it Don Mattingly 23?
Yeah.
I think he was, yeah.
Yeah, Michael Jordan. There's a lot of good 23s.
I was trying to think about the Yankees, but yes.
But yeah, so I was 23, and you show up, and you've got your whole locker decked out, all your uniforms, and so I get dressed and go out on the field, and I ended up getting a pitch hit that night. I pinch hit in the 8th inning, drove in a run, ended up scoring the tying run, and we ended up winning the game. So it was awesome. I was scared to death because, like I said, I haven't seen a live pitch in over a month, and for guys that play baseball, they know that's a lifetime. So I get up there, and the first pitch I see is a ball. The next pitch is a 1-0 fastball, and it was 98 on the scoreboard. And to me, it looked like 58. I was way early, and I hooked it foul in the stands. I'm like, I stepped out of the box. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be okay.
Wow.
So anyway, so I ended up getting a base hit my
what
first
was that
at bat.
like, just getting in your first big league at bat?
You know, people ask me all the time, Bo, if I was nervous. I wasn't nervous at all. I think it was the not knowing what was going to happen after over a month of not seeing a live pitch. But it's really like I got in the box. I've never seen the ball better in my life. Now, first of all, you got a major league backdrop. You know, when you're in the minor leagues, you've got shadows. You've got like Coors Light signs that are white that the ball's coming out of. In a major league ballpark, you've got a giant green batter's eye, and you can see the ball so good. But I wasn't nervous at all because the pressure was off. My dream was to play in a major league game, and I stepped out on that field in a major league game, and I was really relaxed, believe it or not. I felt great.
High fly ball. Bubba Carpenter sends Sosa back to the warning track. He's at the wall.
So what was your major league career like?
Short. To be honest with you, I do have one stat. I doubt that this will make it to Cooperstown, but I did average, and someone told me this, but I can't even tell you my stats, to be honest with you. I have no idea what my stats are, but I do know I had 3 home runs, and I had 27 at bats. So that's 1 home run every 9 at bats. So that puts me up there with Barry Bonds, Hank Aaron, and some of the greats. So you can look at it and say, well, maybe I retired too soon, or maybe I, peaked too late. I don't know how you want to view it, but I do have that going for me.
What was your first home run like in the big leagues?
It was awesome. I don't even remember going around the bases.
9-9 game, and he hits this one in the air to deep right field. The cueing and Bell at the wall. That's O'Connor.
It was in Shea Stadium, and it was to put us ahead in the 11th inning. I hit it off at Turk Wendell. He was our closer back then. And I hit it off at Turk Wendell. It was a 2-run homer to put us ahead in the top of the 11th. And I'd always dreamed that home run would be on the other side of town in Yankee Stadium. I didn't know it'd end up being in Shea Stadium. But it was awesome. And there was a pitcher in the bullpen brought me a ball, an ex-Longhorn, actually. I wish I could think of his name. He brought me the ball because he knew I went to U of A, which is really cool. He brought it to me in the clubhouse after the game and gave me the ball. And it was just awesome. But it's one of those things I don't remember going around the bases. So until I saw the highlights of it, I had no idea.
A pinch hit home run, the first in the major leagues by Bubba Carpenter. And the Rockies take.
So when did you decide, what made you decide to end your big league career?
Well, I was at the airport, and it was after 9/11, and I'm getting ready to fly to Mexico to play winter ball. And I wasn't home very much. I'd come home for about a month, and I'd go off and play winter ball. I was heading to Mexico, and I was in the airport with my daughter, and she was like 5 at the time, I guess, 4 or 5. And she, when it came time to board my flight, she couldn't go up the escalator with me. This was at X&A here in town. And she couldn't come up the escalator, and I'm going up the escalator, and she's standing down at the bottom of the escalator with her hands up in the air like this, just crying like crazy. And I tell you what, Bo, I'm not a real emotional guy. I don't cry very much. I got on that plane and cried and cried and cried. I couldn't stop. And the flight attendant's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And the love of the game was gone. It was gone. I got to Mexico, and I'm like, what am I doing? I'm away from my family. And, I had a chance in Mexico, was getting scouted to go to Japan. And I just didn't, the love of it was gone. And so I got back here at the end. I stayed there through the playoffs. They had brought me down for the playoffs. Came back here, and teams are calling, and I didn't return their call. My agent's calling me, and I'm like, "Look, let's talk next week." And it's weird. Baseball's a mental game, and I just wasn't into it mentally. I kept saying I'll start working out next week, and then finally I'm just like, look, I'm done. It's so crazy, and I've loved the game of baseball from the time I was a little kid. I didn't love it then. I just didn't love it. There was something about that moment that made me, it changed me, and I wanted to turn the page and do something else.
The only thing here, just flatten out your attack just a little bit. It's like a high-spin fastball.
Did you know what it was going to be?
Right there.
I didn't know. I knew that I had a passion for coaching. I really did. So I had a chance to buy a little indoor facility. A guy had it, and I bought it, and I started training teams and players and coaching, and I loved it. And I outgrew that place, moved into another place, and it's just kind of grown from there, Bo. And you've been in my facility before, so you know kind of what I'm all about. I don't have grand illusions of all these kids playing in the major leagues. I've got kids that play. I've got a kid that's a senior at Fayetteville, a kid that's 9 years old that plays baseball. They both love the game. I don't care if they play in the big leagues. I want them to learn to be, what I call lifelong lessons through the game of baseball, and just be better kids and grow up and be better young men. If it happens to be on a baseball field, then God bless them. If it's at a job they're doing, maybe they're sitting there talking to you one day, who knows? I just want them to learn to be good human beings. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. How many kids do you think that have been through your organization since you've had
goodness.
it? I mean, just how many, like, on an annual basis, or how many teams? I mean,
we've got 20-something teams right now. So we get a lot of kids that come through. I don't even know how many kids I've sent to college to play baseball. I know there's several kids that without what we offer, they probably would have ended up, in jail or something. There's been some kids that had bad family lives that come in and we're their family. And I love it. I love it. When you can change a kid's life, there's nothing better. Now, what I'm not good at is beating my chest and telling people about it. My dad always said, if you've got to tell people how good you are, you ain't that good. So I'm not good at promoting myself. I don't have a wall of honor and a wall that says all the kids I've done this for. I don't have any of that stuff, but I've got it right here in my head and in my heart, and I know. And kids come back now. I've got guys coaching for me right now that were some of those kids that I trained back in the day. Now they're back here coaching and giving it back to the kids again, just like I did to them 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago. If you can affect kids like that, and I've seen it, Bo, and when you see it affect a kid and change him, or, little things like when I'm working with a kid, let's say I'm on hit tracks, and we're trying to produce a certain exit velocity and maybe even a certain launch angle to make a ball go a certain distance. When that kid does it and that light comes on and you see the look on his face, it makes it all worthwhile.
And Smith swings at the slider. Little looper, going to fall over third base and into left field. Smith sprinting for second. The throw, the head first slide, no tag. He's in there safely.
That's a great job right there. Colton Smith was getting it around first base right out of the box. There was no hesitation.
Let's talk about calling games on the radio. Did you ever see that happening?
Yeah, I did not. And, it's kind of a funny story. Norm DeBryan, David Shoemaker was the one that first approached me. Norm texted me and said, you're going to get a call from David Shoemaker from IMG, and he wants you to do the radio, the color, with Phil Elson. And I'm like, okay. And I just didn't have time. I really didn't. I didn't have time to do it. And I sat down with my wife and, we thought about it. We prayed about it, and we're just like, I can't make it work. So I type up an email and I'm sending it to David Shoemaker and I'm copying Coach DeBryan about it. And I'm getting ready to send it. Well, about that time, the phone rings and it's Norm DeBryan. And he asked me, he's like, hey, what are you thinking? We really like for you to do it. And I can't tell him no. I've got the email typed up, ready to go. I was probably within 5 minutes of sending it. And I couldn't tell Coach D no. I love that guy. And he's, my dad died a few years ago. He's like a second dad to me. And so I ended up agreeing to do it. I met with Phil Elson at a restaurant. We talked about it. And the minute I met Phil, I'm like, this is going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then, of course, 2018, what a better year to start doing the radio for the Hogs. Great bunch of guys, a great team, back around the just being around the guys in the facility again. It's been awesome.
Try to go upper deck, left field. There.
I've been a Razorback fan my whole life, and every time I put on that uniform, I did it with pride. I knew I wasn't just representing myself or my family or the Razorbacks. I was representing the whole state, and I hope I did it the right way.
How do you hope Razorback fans remember you?
As a true Razorback fan with big, thick Razorback goggles, because I love the Razorbacks. I really do. I've loved them when I was a little boy. I've watched this program grow. Norm DeBryan, from where he started it to where Dave Van Horn has it now, is unbelievable to me. And I'm proud to be a part of it. And I'll tell you what, Bo, during the Razorback game, especially as it gets later in the season, there's several group texts that I'm on with ex-players from the 70s, 80s, 90s. And there's so many guys out there that, Razorback baseball changed their lives and kind of, mapped out their life and put them on their life course. And it's so cool when you're in contact with all those guys. And that's when we're in touch, is during baseball season. It's really neat.
Thanks again for joining us on The Hog Pod, a production of Sport and Story and Learfield IMG College. Please go to Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review The Hog Pod. I'm Bo Mattingly, your host and executive producer. The Hog Pod is produced by Haley Ordway. Coordinating producer is Bart Pullman. Episodes are mixed and edited by Sawyer Radler. Our production assistants are Emery Kincaid and Evan Eccleston. Theme music for The Hog Pod is composed by Sweet 25. Our supervising producers are David Shoemaker and Kyle Parkinson. Special thanks to Bubba Carpenter, the Razorback Foundation, Jim Borden, and Fox Sports. Support for The Hog Pod comes from First Security Bank, only in Arkansas. Saracen Resort, now open in Pine Bluff. Lindsay Golf, the world leader in affordable championship golf. And Abuelita Maria, the only officially licensed Razorback-shaped tortilla chips. We hope you'll join us again next week for another edition of The Hog Pod.